Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Another episode of American Truck Simulator, and this guy
Longer he's
right
going to
here.
be there, but I think he can be a
That's right,
five-year
Tony
coach at
and
that
Truckin's
spot. I don't
back.
think he's a total disaster like Matt does.
Got,
No, I look at him very differently than Matt does. I can certainly
John
see that
Adams on. It's
perception.
right. It's Thursday.
He doesn't fit
All right, where are we at?
the profile of your average college coach, but he's
Cheyenne.
I would venture to say his IQ is 25 points higher than Butch Jones. 25 points.
Oh my God.
That's a lot more brain cells.
World
You
of
bring up
Trucks.
recruiting.
See
He's
where we need
recruiting
to deliver
better
to.
than anybody has in Missouri in a long time. You guys mentioned earlier about Missouri used to recruit Texas. Well, it got away from that when it moved to the SEC. Drinkwitz has gone back in there and got one of the best running backs, a commitment from one of the best running backs in Texas. I think he's an excellent recruiter. I'm not real big on that horizontal stuff either, Matt. However, if you get the right kind of players for it, you can move the ball. I think he's a really good play caller. I like him as a play caller. And he's also got some moxie to him. He's not afraid to take on the big guys. And as he gets better, I think he might do that more and more. To me, Missouri, though, is a really puzzling team. And you got to put some of that on Drinkwitz.
I still think
The
it's got to be
defensive front
Sheridan.
for Missouri
I think it has to
should
be
have been
Sheridan.
the strength of the team. Front four has tremendous amount of experience. Trajan Jeffcoat, first team All SEC. Kobe Whiteside, nose guard, nose tackle. He's considered one of the best down linemen in the SEC, at least going into the season. All four of those guys have played a lot, and nothing's happening up there. So that makes me wonder about what's going on with the defense, and that's, ultimately that's Drinkowitz's responsibility too.
John, when you say nothing's happening up there, like when you are at the bottom of college football, third down conversions, because people just run the ball on you, convert third downs, so you can't get off the field. I think they're like 125 out of 130 teams, something crazy like that. Their total defense numbers are brutal. Their rush defense is at the bottom of college football, like 129 out of 130. I mean, it's crazy.
Nothing.
This Wilkes guy, who was 15 years in the NFL, including time as a head coach, there's no doubt that guy knows his schemes. He couldn't have survived in professional football as long as he did. But sometimes you get these pro guys in these college deals, which, by the way, makes the SEC a league that has two former, right now, NFL head coaches that are coordinators on staffs. I mean, that's why we say it's the closest thing to NFL football. 15 years ago, that was unheard of. Now you got two guy, Bill O'Brien and this guy in the league, and there might be some more that I'm missing. Doug Marrone's another one. Three of them.
At Alabama. Yeah. Go ahead, man.
Oh, I was.
Go ahead, Brian.
You mentioned they're
You
on the
guys
same
forget
staff.
about me.
Yeah.
There's two ex-coaches in one division from last year in the AFC South that are now on Alabama's staff.
I mean,
Good luck to you.
Give me a break. But the Wilkes guy, for whatever reason, John, and we had Gabe DeArmond on yesterday, and he
Well,
wonders
guess
aloud
you're
if
not
maybe this
finding
guy
one.
has just got these kids confused. Because that doesn't add up the way they've played. And what you have to
Let's
hope
do
for with
that
Tennessee
one.
is you have to hope it continues. And you have to hope that they don't simplify what they're doing and the lights all of a sudden go on for them, because they're due to play a good game because they've got supposedly good material there.
Tony, that's a great point. I've seen that happen many times through the years. These pro guys come in there, they're accustomed to dealing with NFL players,
All right.
more mature
Engine
guys,
on. Park
and
and brake off.
they're hung up on their
Wipers
schemes and all the moves they can make. Sometimes that can work if you've got a certain group up there, but so many times it doesn't. But again, that's Drinkowitz's decision to make that hire. I'm sure he looks at it like, hey, I can hire an NFL coordinator. That speaks well for Missouri's program. That makes him look good. He's an NFL guy. He can come in here and make us even better defensively. And as you pointed out, it doesn't always work that way. So much of the time, I think these coaches overcomplicate things. And you just need to sometimes let these guys play. But you're right. If Missouri's defensive front had played up to preseason expectations, this is clearly a 4-0 team.
You know, I've never thought, Matt, we were talking the other day, you and I, about the offense when Dave Clawson was here that one year.
Lord.
And how, from a former standpoint, how that was really, looking back on it, a really nonsensical hire. Because truly, everywhere he's been, it's taken him 2 years for his offense. And obviously, we have the benefit of time to see this. But even as a head coach, a coordinator, what have you, it takes his scheme 2 years for his kids to get it. He had our guys completely confused, but you got to give him credit, Matt, because in order to survive in college football, he modified a lot. What he was asking from his offensive linemen, and I think it's be a decent time to elaborate on that, because that was really a bad hire here, Dave Clawson. It doesn't get any worse than that.
Well, it gets a lot worse than that. Sal Sinceri was a worse hire.
Interesting.
But with Clawson, it was going to take time. As a very different offense. You had the flipping the offensive lineman that Clawson has gotten rid of that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think after he went 2-10 at Bowling Green, he got rid of the flipping lineman deal. But that was always going to be a kind of a work in progress deal. And even though Tennessee was coming off 2 really good seasons, and they had actually kind of backdoored the way into Atlanta in 2007, Fulmer didn't have any equity built left, and the one bad year, and just kind of, Urban Meyer and Nick Saban coming into the league and having immediate success just kind of, took away any of that equity that Fulmer had built up. So he couldn't, he wasn't allowed to see that thing through. But I think that season was such a train wreck that Fulmer was going to have to make another coordinator hire if he had found a way to keep his job.
So here's a question. We're 48 hours away or so from the game, 49 hours. I mean, it's very quickly. It's 12 noon start. You get no time to prepare.
Yeah, time flies when you don't talk about football all week, Tony.
Guys.
Come on, man.
How key is Saturday's game in terms of the way our fan base views Josh Heupel? And here's where I'm going.
Very huge.
We had already
talked about this on the podcast yesterday.
How they've been able to obtain some traction in recruiting. Yesterday we had our recruiting analyst X on with us yesterday, and we were trying to look at this puzzle from many different sides. Matt likes that our callers were getting in the way. Matt appreciates our callers, some of them during that segment yesterday. God bless you all. Don't understand the concept of a specialty segment. No offense to you. But here's the deal. X made an interesting point, which is if you want to gain traction in this class, that's got to begin on Saturday. It's got to begin against South Carolina. One of the things he talked about that's really
give the money bag to
in this
Walter
whole
Nolan
thing
already, so we can get people on board.
Staffs
here. Come on.
know that if you have noon kickoffs, it's really hard to bring visitors to your campus because you're not going to present what you can present in a night game. Plus, if you continue to play in these noon games, they're not highly attended, so your stadium doesn't pop.
Think about the player visit.
His point
they play on Friday nights.
You win the next couple of weeks, you get a chance to play Lane Kiffin in what surely is going to be at least a 7 o'clock game on ESPN. And I think that's a pretty decent read. If you look at that week of games in the Southeastern Conference, and either ESPN, ESPN2, one of those deals, and they put it on in a prime time because they love that sort of thing. Lane Kiffin coming back to Tennessee, and you can dig up all the old bones, and maybe that Lexus is out there somewhere. still in a rec yard somewhere where they can get a shot of that. John, do you find this game having significance for Tennessee with regards to the credibility of Josh Heupel with our fans, and just this would be a really, really solid, strong win for him if they're able to get this win Saturday on the road?
Yeah, Tony, I think I don't look at it so much from recruiting, though. Even if Tennessee wins this game, beats South Carolina, if it gets steamrolled by Ole Miss, Alabama, Georgia, and even Kentucky, those good feelings will go away pretty quickly. And I don't think they should beat any of those. I think they'll be an underdog in all those games. So I don't really see that much significance in recruiting. However, where I see the significance is this is a game Tennessee can win. South Carolina is the game Tennessee can win. I mean, it needs to win both those games if it hopes to go to a bowl game. And that has recruiting significance as well. So I look at it from...
Please stop raining
soon. Much like I did the Pittsburgh game.
So
Pittsburgh was a game Tennessee could win and I think should have won. I don't think Pittsburgh...
I appreciate the realism.
It's a middle-of-the-road ACC team.
It's a great line.
It's almost the same thing. And when you look at those teams, Pittsburgh had a good quarterback, and because of that, a good offense. No running game. Missouri has not quite as good of a quarterback, but he's okay. He's pretty good. Better than average, I would say, in the SEC East. And you combine that with Tyler Beatty, he's having a great year at running back. So very similar teams. And I think the difference could be Hendon Hooker, as we alluded to earlier. If he didn't start against Pittsburgh, and I think that cost Tennessee a win. If he'd have started that game, gone wire to wire, I think Tennessee would have won that game. So that's how I view the significance of the Missouri game, not so much in recruiting.
865-200-5402. Here's a question for the living fan. Do you hold a lot of significance for Saturday's game in terms of the way you view Josh Heupel?
4 hours.
Or is it too soon to start talking?
Thank goodness. Let's go.
Because this is truly, I think, a winnable game. And truly, it's it's easy to say this in hindsight, second game of the season. But if his team would have just kept in the middle of the road, one thing Doc Sinclair talked about, you look back on that Pitt game, if you could have just scored when you got the ball down there on the drive where you get the personal foul penalty. At one point you got a 1st and goal, and then you got the ball back at the 35 or 40-yard line. You never see that.
Let's not talk about it, Tony.
But this team has done that. This team has been, I'm not going to say poorly coached, but they've been undisciplined. And the undisciplined nature of this team cost it a chance to stay in the Florida game. There's no doubt about that. Just making losing plays at winning times. And in the Pittsburgh game, that was a really key spot there. And it took them essentially out of a drive. And his contention yesterday was, if you don't clean that up, you're not going to beat anybody in this league. And he's probably right. When you look at our talent, you beat Vanderbilt, maybe, mucking around like that. But in light of letting the Pittsburgh game get away, in light of that this is year 0, we all know that. In light of that recruiting's not going, it's not that it's not going all that well, it's not going. It's one thing for it to be not going well. It's another thing for it not to be going. So, team needs a jump start. Fan base needs a jump start. Everything needs a jump start here. These guys need to win tomorrow, or Saturday. Or am I sort of overstating that? Where are you right now? A couple days out. I'd like to hear from you. 865-200-5402. John Adams, presented by our friends.
If you want me to buy into Heupel and all that, you have to win.
Which, if you are a senior, or you know a senior, you've got an opportunity here. Because if you are a senior, like to work a few hours a week and give back and keep company with another senior and be a blessing in somebody's life, there's an opportunity for you to do that. 865-269-4483. And if you have a senior in your family that needs some care like that, head over to the website at seniorshelpingseniors.com and learn more. In the meantime, I want to unpack this Missouri game, get into a few other things as well. 865-200-5402 is our number. If you want to join us, John Adams is with us for the next couple as we continue with more after this. Don't let the high prices at the big box stores stop you from buying new flooring for your home or business. Shop at Stover's Liquidation in Oak Ridge. Save tons of money, like luxury plank starting at 69 cents per square foot. Hardwood flooring starting at $149 a square foot. With the best possible selection, over 10 million square feet of flooring in stock. Nobody stocks more flooring than Stover's Liquidation. So come shop us in Oak Ridge.
Stover's!
Anytime at StoversLiquidation.com. Stover's! Tony Basilio here from my good friend Marcos Garza in your Garza Law Firm. Pretty jacked up that it's football time in Tennessee. How about you? Well, I still have word of a troubling development and what we can do about it. Because carpetbaggers remain in our area. Out-of-town law
Please
firms,
stop raining.
have been swarming into East Tennessee.
Been long
lately.
enough
Firms
now.
from Memphis, Chattanooga, Birmingham. They've stormed into our area. You've seen the ads on television. You've heard some of these new ads that are popping up on radio. Let me ask you a question. Wouldn't you rather do business with somebody that's live and local? A local law firm? You know, a true neighbor. Marcos Garza and my friends at your Garza Law Firm are exactly that. These are your neighbors, your friends, our neighbors and friends. Support local causes year-round. Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm, always there for me when I have a need. For Fish Hospitality Pantry, and also our Machi Tailgate. Just to name a couple of things. They're live and local. They're one of us. They're of our earth. The Garza Law Firm works to serve you professionally on criminal matters, injuries, and accident matters. The Garza Law Firm is here for you at GarzaLaw.com. And they will be for many, many years to come. Live, local, one of us. One of you, the Garza Law Firm. Let us help. Life never stops moving. And between the 30-minute commutes, daycare pickups, weekly soccer practice, Tuesday night yoga, X number of coffee runs, and that weekend trip to Grandma's, you're racking up the miles. What you need is a tire that can keep up. A tire designed for doers. A tire that's going to last. Like the exceptionally long-lasting Michelin Defender tire. With an 80,000-mile warranty and the safety and comfort you expect, you can forget all about the miles ahead and focus on getting to your destination or conquering your to-do list. Fleet Tire, I-275 exit 1B at East Woodland Avenue in Knoxville. That's Fleet Tire, I-275 exit 1B at East Woodland Avenue in Knoxville. Fleet Tire.
What do you call a group of friends who wear the same jersey for good luck, no matter how old it is, and who support their team through thick and thin, week after week, as if the very season depended on it while drinking Miller Lite? You call it Miller Time, all football season long. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2020 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Please stop raining.
Carnes Motor
Please
Company is
stop.
celebrating 20
Please.
years of serving the living East Tennessean. Like us here at your Tony Basilio show, Carnes Motor Company wins because Rob and Brian go above and beyond for you. Above and beyond. Carnes Motor Company will even buy or sell your vehicle. Yes, they'll buy or sell your vehicle for you. Plus, warm weather's here. It's time to get your air
It's so
conditioning.
hard to tell how far out
And get
these
your vehicle ready for
buoys
vacation with their
go.
certified technicians. And the best part, bumper to bumper, pillar to post. Carnes Motor Company will serve all your vehicle needs. How else can you thrive? For 20 years, besides going above and beyond, you will win with Carnes Motor Company. 7447 Oak Ridge Highway. Online at carnesmotor.com. Win with Carnes Motor Company.
The kids are off to college. They're hundreds of miles away. And me and Mrs. B are staring at each other in an empty house. She wants to get away, go see a show or an event. Who do we call?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's like
How about when she wants to go to an NFL game?
Worst
Hey,
commercial
select ticket
ever.
service. Back to
Thanks
the
a
phones.
lot.
About a concert in
Up there,
Atlanta.
top
Select
three.
ticket service.
Say an NBA game in Charlotte.
Select ticket service.
Select ticket service.
Select ticket service.
687-1718. 687-1718. Select ticket service.
Yeah, that'll play.
Are you or do you know a senior that wants to give back and make some extra money while doing it? Well, I've got a life-giving idea for you. It's called Seniors Helping Seniors. This is a special job that will work around your lifestyle. Whether you or the senior you know can provide just transportation to a fellow senior or have a full nursing background, you
Hey, why are
have
we
the
going slow,
ability to
folks?
work
Come on.
as many
God,
or as
what a-
few hours as you would like. So
What a
any
pass
senior
in the
can
shoulder,
do.
but
Give them a
no
call and join the
up
life-giving team
top of
at
that
Seniors
hill over
Helping
there,
Seniors. 865-269-4483.
Why are we going so slow, dump truck? Come on, man.
269-4483. Or find them online at seniorshelpingseniors.com. It's a great way to give and receive. Seniors Helping Seniors.
The Chili Ovackwich, 865-200-5402. John Adams Appearance presented by Seniors Helping Seniors. We're going to go to the phones. The question is this. How important is the Missouri game to you this year? We know it's an important game, but is it important to you for your vision of, or your view of the type of coach and where Tennessee is heading, or is it too early to talk like that? I think it's a really important game. I think it's a gettable game, and I think Tennessee left one on the field with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, since they left here, has not exactly been, shall we say, impressive. And let's go to the phones. Hello and welcome into our first call. You're live on Thursdays with Adams.
Oh, Tony, this is Luke.
Hey, Luke, welcome in, buddy.
Hey, did you watch the Dodger game last night?
Dodger game, I did not.
Well, you know how they won, don't you?
No.
They hit 4 home runs in the bottom of the 8th inning to win that game. Four
Oh, yeah,
home
maybe
runs.
it
I don't
stopped
know if I've ever
raining.
seen 4.
Okay.
Those have been 3, but I don't know about 4.
Yeah.
So did they go back to back to back
Let's
to
check
back, or
real
did they
quick.
just spread out 4
So
home runs in the
last
bottom
night,
of an inning?
I
We
think they
ended up
went
filling
back
up
to back,
all of
and,
our
third baseman hit a double,
garages.
then another guy come in and hit a
Garages.
2-run homer to go 2 runs ahead.
Oh, wait, that's right. We expanded
The
the
poor-
Bakersfield one, so we got 2
The
spots
poor
there.
San Diego Padres, they were 18
Oh, we
games
got a lot
over
of food
500,
trucks.
best record in baseball,
About a
and they
couple
got
more
eliminated from the wild card where there's a
the media
2-team
ones.
wild card, a 2-tiered wild card.
Let's go ahead and do
They got
that,
eliminated
actually.
from the wild card with 10 days left in the season. This year couldn't end quickly enough for those people.
Yeah. I think it's too early yet. You could say Tennessee's 0-2 because of because the other 2 games are really no competition. But I think it is too early, but they're going to have to clean up those penalties, or they're not going to win nothing.
Which
Which
begs the question. I want to throw this at the panel. John, I start with you. Who's to blame for the penalties? The kids, the coaches? You want to go off the board? Who do we blame for the penalties?
You know, it's hard to say. I mean, everybody's involved in that.
Dang, this guy's
But
good.
a lot of times it just goes back to the kind of players you recruit. And do you establish discipline in your program? And with those young guys right away, I think that's really important, that you establish discipline with a player when he's a freshman. And I don't think Jeremy Pruitt did that.
Well, that's a really good point, because these are veteran guys that are making these plays. That's the other thing. These are veteran guys who are doing some of this crazy stuff. It's not like it's the kids.
Penalty machine from the start.
Yeah.
He did stupid stuff from day one.
Hey, Matt, who do you blame? Because we had talked about how Heupel's teams at Central Florida were highly penalized, but it wasn't like this, was it, Matt?
For the most part, it was. A lot of that pre-snap procedure penalties, false starts, Holding, they got called for holding a lot, which I don't know how you judge that and who you put that on. It's a little, it kind of, I guess a little blame goes to everyone, but it's hard to
Holding
blame
on every
coaches
play,
when,
Matt.
when guys are false starting or something. It's hard to put that on coaches. There in that at the end of the first half in Florida, there was the back-to-back false starts, and on one of them, Darnell Wright and Cade Mays both jumped the snap early, which it was, and it's like how that's not on coaching, I don't think, but it's just an undisciplined team at this point because they had poor habits, developed over the last 3 or 4 years.
Getting over.
What's interesting, Tony, I think I've seen Alabama
Back in
teams
the right lane.
under Nick Saban get penalized a lot.
Yeah, recently.
And some of those penalties with Bama teams were kind of like living on the edge. How much do you want to push the envelope? We want you to be really aggressive, which creates a culture there. However, the difference is when you're Alabama and you have that kind of talent and you play with that kind of intensity, you overcome those penalties. I think that's why we focus so much on them with Tennessee. It just has so little margin for error. We saw that against Pittsburgh. We could see it against Missouri. We certainly saw it against Florida. Tennessee can't sabotage itself. So another team with a lot of talent, and you get a lot of penalties, you could say, yeah, okay, they got penalized. So what? They won 45-13. I think that's a big factor in it. Everything is magnified. Mistakes are with this team.
Well, and Lukey, I go back to that Pittsburgh game. You bring up the penalties. They got that one drive. They got the ball down there. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, because I was trying to think of that sequence last night. Is that not... Didn't Cade Mays, hit somebody late?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the pile late.
Yeah, and that was the first
That was
of many. And we were talking from the Bowling Green game, Tennessee's offensive line, they were kind of hitting after the whistle that night, and we liked it. Like, we were on Garzaloff fifth quarter fan reaction talking about how, it looked like they had some pop and some fire, and that stuff's good till the officials throw flags. And when the officials throw flags, you have to adjust. How did the ball end up back at the 40-yard line? Do you guys remember the sequence? Matt, you're better at this than I am. But how did
we had a false start, the personal foul penalty, and I think we had an offensive pass interference.
Yeah, that wiped out, I think, maybe a touchdown, didn't it?
So the ball ended up back there, literally, instead of inside the 10.
It was a 47-yard field goal after we had first and goal at the 3.
Good gosh almighty.
Hey, Tony.
Golly, Josh Hawley.
The targeting call on the punt return.
Yes.
I think y'all missed that. He only had about a half a second before he raised his arm when we hit that guy. He should at least have 2 seconds. He waited till the very last second to raise his arm.
Talking about the Florida game? You talking about the Florida game? Look, you can't hit a guy that doesn't have a ball in his hands, though. Whether the guy has his hands up or not, that guy never caught the ball. He blew a guy up. He wasn't looking. I mean, he wasn't even looking to see where the ball was, Luke.
I think he had the ball, Tony.
Oh, no.
Back in my day, Tony, we could...
you guys want to jump in here on that?
Get shot and then hit.
No, that was brutal.
You get back up,
was
put some dirt in it, and keep on playing.
just
Hell, half
wipe
the
out
time
a guy getting ready to return
you'd
punt.
score on the play you got shot on,
Did the guy catch the
Tony.
ball when he hit him?
No, I don't think the ball had got there yet. Which you have to give them the opportunity to make it. I think it's like a 1-yard deal, but you have to let them catch the punt. And even if you take away the targeting, it was still the kick catch interference.
Yeah, y'all might want to go back and look at it. But
Luke, no.
Another thing
Luke, you might want to go back and look at it.
Another thing I want to ask John Adams on the Army game. I heard they took the Army off the schedule because of triple option. But I remember Bear Bryant. He went to the triple option. And how do you know that one of these teams are not going to go to triple option like Mississippi?
Mississippi.
I think it's a brutal mistake
Triple
to take
option.
the Army off the schedule because that brings a lot of fans into the game too. The fans are going to go see the service teams.
Yeah,
I just think it's a bad
Thank you,
look
Luke.
just
when you
play 'em.
cancel out of a game with the Service Academy program, and then you replace it with Akron.
Yeah.
And Tennessee embarrassed itself on that.
Yep.
It's like, well, I don't think we can beat Army, and I don't think it can beat Army either. But to replace it with Akron,
And Josh
it just
Heupel's
looks,
second year,
it's
if
just
you
really
can't
bad
beat
optics.
Army.
Well, Tennessee's played games
That's it.
that they had no
Sorry,
business
bud.
playing, in, like Oregon on the road,
Yes.
and that was scheduled so many years in advance, which I think is stupid to schedule stuff at least more than 2 years out, because you never know what direction a program's going to take in that long time. So, I mean, Tennessee ducking someone is an argument that I'll just counter with, well, they played everybody and anybody on the road and all over the place. Notre Dame, UCLA, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Oregon, when they weren't suited to play some of those games.
Okay, 38.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead,
I
Matt.
think though, Brian, when you look at it though, this year and next year, I know Tennessee's at a low ebb, but you can get programs that aren't at the very bottom, and Tennessee seems to be just scouring the dregs of college football to come up with opponents. I mean, Bowling Green and Akron. Bowling Green actually upset Minnesota, so it's doing better than I thought. But Akron's just been awful. And then you mix in an FCS team like Tennessee Tech.
The
I mean,
Zips.
that's a bad FCS program. When you look at next year's schedule, I mean, it's really the non-conference schedule is a joke. Pittsburgh won't be as good next year as it was this year, and so yeah, you want to get to a bowl game, but wow, that's a tricky way to do it. I just
Ben,
think for a
already
program
earning
with Tennessee's
$500.
tradition, it looks
Thank you,
bad.
Ben.
I would try and mix in. If you want to play MAC
Gee.
teams, play a better level of MAC teams. You can schedule more strategically. You can play a better FCS program than Tennessee Tech. And I think Tennessee now, these reputations develop very quickly. And Tennessee, I think, nationally is being perceived as somebody that will schedule the easiest possible opponents because it's so desperate for wins.
Right.
Oh, Kentucky's been doing that for 15 years, though.
I
I
mean,
know,
a
but
lot.
that's
like
the
every
thing.
SEC team just
Do you
has
want to be
crappy
compared
out-of-conference,
to
like
Vanderbilt has done it at times
Alabama once a year.
too? Is that
will
what you want to be
play,
compared to?
Well, I
middle
just
of
know
the
we
pack,
need as many
top 25
bye wins as we can
team.
get right
they're,
now.
They're going to
I
destroy.
mean, I don't
like,
fault
there's
them all.
nothing
But
else
it's
gonna happen.
I don't like the canceling a service academy game, but there's no reason
But then
to
you
play
know Alabama plays Mercer
a
like
triple
every
option
freaking
team,
year. Like,
you know, whether it's a service academy or not, you know, in the middle of your season. I just the game never should have been scheduled to begin with.
That's true.
Scheduling 7 years in advance, that's what happens.
And it's sandwiched in between a game at Pittsburgh and then Florida.
That's a
Right,
Dave Hart
just-
special
just
right there.
Idiotic.
Right.
It's a Dave Hart
And then
special.
third, right.
Because Army
Yeah, I mean,
played that way.
Justin Harrell and Inky Johnson were lost for the year in that Air Force game, you know, and Tennessee might have beat Florida if both of those guys were healthy.
Army's-
you know, that next week.
And Army's played the way they're playing. They've played that way for years. So Dave Hart knew what he was getting into, but nobody could tell Dave Hart anything. I mean, you
Well,
know.
Army was bad when they made that schedule. Navy was the service academy that was really good. Now it's reversed. Navy's really bad. Army's much better. So you just don't know where a program's going to be in that much time.
Come on,
The great
That's
point,
why
Ryan.
if I'm in the NCAA, you get better TV matchups by not allowing schools to schedule matchups more than 2 years in advance. This whole 10 to 15 years down the road thing is just stupid.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I
Good
don't want
point,
to give
Brian.
Dave Hart. I don't want to give Dave Hart too much credit for anything, but when he scheduled Army, I don't think it's what Army is now.
But those
They were terrible.
But they were still a triple option team, though. That's my point. I don't think you should play any of those teams.
And he's not the only AD to do that. They do that everywhere, and it's stupid.
Okay, let's look up.
865-200-5402. So thank you, Lukey. We diverge on a viewpoint
The
there.
damn
I'm gonna sit out
cities.
on the Army thing. I do know that there was a Medal of Honor convention
Cheyenne,
that's
Rock
supposed to take
Springs,
place. I got a
okay.
couple emails from people that were really
Sheridan,
tore up over
Cheyenne,
that. Apparently
Cheyenne
Tennessee
to
had been
Gillette,
communicating, and I don't
Sheridan,
know whether this is,
Sheridan
you know,
Rock
but
Springs,
they've been
Gillette,
communicating with them and didn't
Gillette
let those
2,
folks
Rock
know,
Springs
and
2,
so that's
Cheyenne,
not
Rock
that's
Springs, Denver,
that doesn't
Cheyenne,
shine a real positive
Rollins,
light.
Denver,
And I get why they
Gillette,
bought the thing out.
Rollins,
We all get it.
Riverton,
We all know
Gillette,
where the program is
Jackson,
right now.
Riverton,
If it's not on an all-time
Casper,
low,
Jackson,
it's heading in that
Twin
direction.
Falls,
Let's go back to the
Casper,
phones. Hello and welcome
Boise,
in
Twin Falls,
to our next call.
Riverton,
Tony
Boise,
Basilio show on a
Cheyenne.
Thursday ahead of the Missouri game.
I don't
Hello.
understand what city we're missing.
Tony, it's an honor to follow Lukey, who's an absolute Hall of Fame caller,
Yep.
and it's an honor to talk to the great John Adams.
Well, thank you.
I've been hoping to do this for years, John. And John, I hate it because it looks like you're the last of the Mohicans. Looks like you're a dying breed of the great sports writers around this town with what's happening to these newspapers these days with the internet.
Well, I'd appreciate if you
I
wouldn't mention dying too much around me. I'm 73, so that kind of hits home a little too hard.
Well, I'm 58, John, and I grew up, back then we had the Knoxville Journal in the morning, and the Sentinel came out in the afternoon, so we had two newspapers. My family got the Journal, so I read Ben Bird most of the time. Who was the great sports writer back then for the Sentinel?
Yeah, that was long before I was here. That was Tom Seiler. Tom Seiler went to Chicago and then I think came back to Knoxville. In fact, probably for the first 15 years here, I would still get some letters addressed to Tom Seiler.
Wow.
And I also got some letters addressed to me about Tom Seiler, basically telling me how poor replacement for him.
Okay, so John, walk me through this.
That's next level.
Because now everything's internet. You get the email, whatever, Twitter, what all that.
Turn right.
After you would write a column
Right.
that would elicit
And
response,
then
right?
straight on.
People had to literally write a note to you, type a letter, whatever it was, something really inflammatory. How many letters would you get in the mail for something that was, kind of touched the nerve?
Oh, man.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you might get 3, 4, 5 letters sometimes on things that really hit home.
How about phone
but
calls?
Also because people could call you still back then.
Yeah.
I remember I'd only been at the News Sentinel a few weeks, and I wrote a kind of controversial column critical of Tennessee involving the NCAA. And a caller called up and said he was going to cancel his subscription because of what I wrote. And I said, well, please don't do that. Please don't do that because they might fire me. He said, no, I'm sorry, but that just really upset me, and I'm going to cancel my subscription. And so then I said,
God, we're never going to get across.
well, I'm not letting you cancel your subscription. I'm not transferring your call to the circulation department. He said, well, I'll just call back. I will notify them not to take your call. And so that's how we kind of ended up.
So,
And I bet he never canceled his subscription. It's like that person that says, I'll never listen to you again.
Oh, I know.
hey, John,
You're right.
John, when it was the Journal and the Sentinel, was there like animosity among the different people on the staffs, or were you guys like
That's a
friendly
great
toward each
question.
other, or how did all that work? The dynamics of all that.
Okay, we're good.
We were friendly. I mean, you go back to those days, guys. It was most papers were a lot of cities were 2 newspaper towns, and I'm sure it was more competitive. When I was in Pittsburgh, it was extremely competitive between the Post-Gazette and the Pittsburgh Press. But in Knoxville, I can remember Gary Lundy and Randy Moore. They both worked there. Came on the Journal, and I was friends with them, especially Gary. In fact, when the Journal folded, I went in and talked to our editor and said, if we don't hire anybody else from that paper, we need to hire Gary Lundy. In fact, we did hire Gary Lundy. He was a great writer and a great friend to me. So, yeah, it was never, there was competition, but it was not, we weren't throwing grenades at one another. We were in the same building, too. So, how adversarial could you really be?
I think only big cities like New York and Chicago have 2 papers now. I believe that's sort of how it's gone?
Oh yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, you go back, L.A., I think the Daily News is still afloat there competing with the L.A. Times, but it's a completely different landscape as to when I came into the business and for much of my career. But I really liked it when there was more than one paper.
So let's just get on the
And
road
you
and
really
get this
had,
over with.
I
Hopefully
liked
we
the
can find
competition.
something.
I thought that was fun.
That makes sense, man. I don't
Anything else
understand
for
what
us,
to say,
Cardio?
Lewis.
Oh, yeah. Now, yeah. Tony, before I get to your question about the Missouri game, I
Yes.
want to ask John a question. I've been wanting to ask him for years. John, I started calling Tony about 20 years as the George Quarles fan.
Oh no.
I was born and raised in Jefferson City, up here in Jefferson. Well, I was born in Knoxville, but I was raised in Jefferson
Lord.
City. And I don't know George. I've really never known him, but when they opened the old
Let me
Jefferson
look
County
up
High
real
School in
quick
1976,
about
his father was first athletic director, and I can remember George coming to our basketball practice with him. But my question for you is, you remember when Phil Fulmer fired Pat Washington as wide receivers coach?
Yeah, but I don't remember the year that was. I've been here so long, and all these teams and coaches kind of run together now. So I remember when he made that, when he did fire him, but I don't remember what
I think
year.
George already had about 8 state championships over there at Maryville. Now, my question is, instead of embarrassing George with that, $6,000 or $8,000 a year graduate assistant job when he was pulling down about $100K over there at Maryville, what do you think Fulmer would have happened if he would have hired George as his wide receivers coach, let him get a couple of years under his belt there, and then when Cutcliffe left to take that Duke job, he had George to slide in there as his offensive coordinator? What do you think? You think Fulmer's outcome would have been different?
Probably not. I thought Fulmer was very insecure, and that was reflected in a lot of his hires. And maybe George Quarles, I mean, you could look at him as just a high school coach, but the guy was really a brilliant offensive strategist and play caller. And if you remember, Fulmer's background was in offense. And I don't know if he would have wanted to bring him in there like that. The best analogy to me would be at Arkansas when Houston Nutt was the head coach. Houston Nutt, a former quarterback, he was an offensive-minded guy. And they had a guy right there in, oh, gosh, there are 3 towns right there together.
Springdale, I think.
Springdale.
Yes, thank you. Springdale. And so Gus Malzahn, he'd already written a book on offense, dynamic high school program, very dynamic offense. And I think Frank Broyles was the AD at the time and pretty much made them hire Gus Malzahn because the offense wasn't flourishing.
Wyoming
Well,
cities.
the staff never accepted him, and neither did Houston Nutt, who also was very insecure as a coach. They called him High School. That was a nickname
Casper.
that they gave Gus Malzahn, who was really a better offensive coach probably than anybody else on that staff, certainly better than Houston Nutt. So
Evanston.
that doesn't always work. I think Fulmer would have been, because just think in our area, even people that didn't go to watch high school games, they knew who George Quarles were. If they were a sports fan, they knew that he was a really good offensive coach.
Jackson.
I kind of think Fulmer might have been afraid of that, or maybe a little concerned how he would fit in as just a receivers coach.
I don't remember
because
too many
George
Larrys.
Quarles was
I think
used to
we did
being
it. I think
in
we
charge.
found it.
Hey, Tony, getting to your question about the Missouri game, I think it's an absolute must game. But because you talked about our recruiting right now reminds me of an old lawnmower where you can't get it started, and you got to go buy some of that ether that you spray into the carburetor.
Rock Springs. So
And John,
4, 6,
one
8,
last
9,
comment on the way out the
Sheridan.
door, or question. Do you think one day we could potentially be
We're
looking
locked
back
now.
on this coaching hire with the missing out on the chance to hire a Anderson County native,
So we got
Jamie Chadwell,
Cheyenne,
and instead hiring Heupel like we
Evanston,
look back
Cheyenne,
on not
Evanston,
hiring Johnny
Rock
Majors
Springs,
instead of
Rock
Bill Battle in
Springs, Gillette.
1970?
Thank you.
Well, yeah. When you talk about looking back, there's no telling how. We have no idea
Okay,
how
yep,
this might
definitely
go.
Laramie.
I mean, there were other people I thought, and I won't belabor this point, but I thought Hugh Freeze to
Don't
me
even have
was
to
the
go
guy to
through
hire.
and make sure.
And I
it's
know there are a lot
Larry.
of people who won't agree with that because of his off the field stuff at Ole Miss. But Jamie Chadwell, he's the kind of guy you would be taking a chance on. He might turn out to be one of the best coaches in the country. He's obviously doing something right.
It's kind of hidden
that's
there
very,
between the,
that's an interesting thing you pose because
real quick.
we just
Yeah,
don't know
it's
how that
kinda
might
hidden,
turn out.
like in the middle
John,
of
we had
Rollins,
Jamie on 2
Cheyenne.
days ago.
So
And-
definitely
and Matt can
Laramie.
speak to this. The guy,
Driven
the
through
guy's
it, I
like
don't think we delivered
mind-bogglingly
to-
special. You just
Obviously.
know. You just know that
And
his
then
stop,
turn right.
the opportunity he gets, and he's going to get an opportunity. He is going to absolutely. He's not going to walk through the door. He's kicking the door down. You see these people. Just like Brian Kelly when he was at Cincinnati, you knew wherever that guy went, he was going to absolutely knock it out. And he's got that intriguing offense. But he's got that personality too, and his team plays so hard for him. And I think they had the game of the year last year in 2020. That thing with BYU was like a street fight over there, and that was an incredibly spirited game. They just took it on the fly, like in 4 days' notice. Both those teams, like a rumble in the jungle. One of those things. I mean, they just fought each other. They went at it. It was
On like
awesome.
3 days notice. On like 3 days notice.
Yes, and he came on the show and
so
said,
awesome.
"I don't care." He said, "I don't care. I don't care if they come in here and wipe us out." He said, "It's a
And
great
then
opportunity
turn
for us. Game day's going to be here. They made a match." I mean, you get kind of chills thinking about that in the modern era, that something like that could take place.
And I give BYU credit too.
Sure,
A lot of
They had nothing to gain from that.
No, but that you guys are right. I mean, that was as intense of a game as I saw the entire season.
It's game of the year. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
every
crazy
play.
The crazy thing about Chadwell's teams, and this is what I asked him, John, you're talking about the Saban teams and how physical they are, and it leads to some penalties. Chadwell's team's one of the least penalized teams in the country, and they play that way. So that's just another sign of just a really well-coached team. And, I guess some people kind of wrote them off as just kind of being the COVID team, but here we are in 2021, and Jamie Chadwell has the best team in the state of South Carolina.
Yeah, you're right. And
Holy crap.
I'm interested in you guys what you
about
think of
that.
this, but
Dang.
when I was looking at Jamie Chadwell last year, one thing that's I always think of when you have a hot coach, I'm reluctant to say, okay, he's the guy to hire, because you don't have a large body of work to judge him by. And
man.
maybe he is the guy, but then you see these other coaches who have that great breakout year, but they don't turn out to be the real deal. So I don't know how you guys saw him last year, but that's kind of how I was. I was intrigued by him. I think, yeah, this guy could be really good, but I'd like to see a larger body of work.
And I think that's fair. And so with a guy like that, they're going to keep winning because they're hot. And another thing that's interesting about him that would make him play at a place like this is he has kind of that in-your-face thing that Lane Kiffin has that our fan base just loves. Our fan base loves that stuff. They would eat Hugh Freeze up here. Our fan base would eat him. Now, they make fun of Hugh Freeze now. You walk him down the aisle, they'd sell that stadium out. Lane Kiffin, if you walked him down that aisle, they'd sell that stadium out. And Jamie Chadwell, if you walk him down that aisle and you let him go around this state, they'd sell the state out. Here's how I know. We had him on 2 days ago, and he lets it slip out of his mouth. One of my gifts is I get people to say things, which is a gift of mine that I've always had. And people sit next to me in an airplane, and they'll just pour their heart out. It's just part of my nature. People hear this on the air. People say things to me. A couple days ago, he's on with us, and he's talking about, and I think it was Matt brought up to him. Was it Matt? Did you bring up Bowden?
That was Brian's question.
Okay. He asked him about, Bobby Bowden's passing and what it meant to him. John, sure as we're sitting
38
here,
more miles.
Jamie
Let's go,
Chadwell
man.
goes, you know,
Beautiful
I went to
truck.
Bowden camps when I was a
Great.
kid. I went to coaching camps.
85,688
I know Terry Bowden. In
miles
fact,
now.
when I was at North Greenville, Terry Bowden had a really good football team, and he really laid it on us one day, and a little too much so. In fact, if I get the opportunity to do that to him this weekend, I'm returning the favor. And I was like, huh? So if I'm a gambler and I'm listening to that, I'm going, I think I know what side I'm playing in that game. Because they're fixing to put it on somebody, because that team's not very good. They're playing, and if he gets up a few scores, he's going to put it on. He's going to put it on him. Which, you know what? Today, most coaches would never say that out loud, John. They would never say that out loud. And that guy did, and I'm telling you, that's something our fan base feeds off of. I know how our fan base thinks.
I think a lot of fan bases feed off that. And it's funny you bring up that in conjunction with the Bowden, albeit Terry. I remember when Bobby Bowden transformed Florida State into a middle-of-the-road program into a dynasty. And sometimes they would beat
11
teams
miles. Please have
terrible.
something to wear.
And Bobby Bowden was the one to ask. I think another coach got upset with how bad they beat them. It wasn't that he was still playing his starters, but he kept running his offense, which I think you should do.
God,
But Bobby Bowden, who was a great Christian and a very compassionate person, but on the field, he was a football coach and extremely competitive. He said, you know, that's not my concern. If we beat you too much, that's your concern. That's the other coach's concern. That's not my concern. And which is a very valid point to me. It always bothers me when I'm watching a game and you bring in the backups and you turn around and you have your backup quarterback hand off to your backup running back and he runs right in the middle of the line and 8 people hit him. You know, keep running your offense. That's unfair to those players, to those backups. They may be your starters one day. So I really like his. You're right. I don't know of too many coaches who would be
up here.
that outspoken to say, well, we're gonna. I remember that, and you know, coaches all remember those kind of games.
That stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
that's the point.
And they're seething. They're seething over those games. Man, if I get a chance, I will pour it on him so bad. I remember Sam White when he's coaching Cincinnati and playing against your buddy Jerry Glanville.
Oh gosh,
who was in Houston.
God, they hated each other.
They were up 55-6. Cincinnati was up. I was covering the game in Cincinnati. 55-6. White called for an onside kick.
I love stuff like
and
that.
And they recovered it, and they won the game 61-6. So I think that's interesting, and you're so right. I mean, fans relate to that. And football is an in-your-face sport.
Yes.
So coaches all have to restrain themselves in talking about this stuff. And then you get somebody on like Jamie Chadwell, and he goes just the other way with it.
And listen, about Josh Heupel, I think he's a really neat guy. He's very sleepy. And he's just sleepy looking. He's just kind of sleepy looking and sleepy acting, and that doesn't translate with our fans. It doesn't sell tickets here. It just doesn't. I mean, I'm going to be really dead level honest with people. That just does not move tickets. A reminder.
WJBE 1040 AM 99.7 FM. Translator W259AB. Powell, Knoxville.
And by the way, I'm not knocking Heupel. I mean, you got to be what you are. You know, you got to be who you were made to be and use your skill set and, you know, recruit smart and especially in the spot you're in right now, and be resourceful, and hopefully your offense can score you some points and you guys can get hot, and hopefully it starts this weekend. We'll continue to talk about it. If you want to jump in, anything we've discussed, the number is 865-200-5402. Again, 865-200-5402. John Adams is with us, presented by Seniors Helping Seniors. Hour number 2 is on your radio. We continue on the other side. Jump in, lines wide open. More after this.
Alumni Hall is your Tennessee shopping destination with the absolute best selection of gear. I'm talking the best stuff from amazing brands like Nike Golf, Champion, and more. Plus, Alumni Hall has great women's fashion and gear for the kids, too. And Alumni Hall offers 10% student and military discounts in store. Plus, you can shop online anytime from anywhere in the world at alumnihall.com. That's alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, your go-to shopping destination for Tennessee gear. TB here for Cedar Bluff Plumbing, a live and local company that's been serving our area for over 32 years and counting because every customer counts, and I mean, no job is too Mac is a Calhoun's feet, and the best part, it's all time and firm. You know, criminal matters. Owe it to yourself to call Adam Buckles. Adam is licensed all over the Southeast. Take it from me. Take it from Titans.
Nutritious Smoothie King.
Brings right love, guys. Let's low energy, brand new. Back with you, 865-200-5402. I've got John Adams on your Tony Basilio show on Thursdays, presented by Seniors Helping Seniors. It's incredible what they do. I'll tell you more about them in a little bit. In the meantime, we're going to go back to our phones. If you want to join us, the number is 865-200-5402. We had a great discussion at our last segment just regarding coaching. John brought a great point up about a Jamie Chadwell, which is sometimes these guys get hot and they're really not. And there have been a bunch of those guys throughout history who you would say, well, they did it there. Will they do it over there? I'll give you one. This Barnett guy at one time, I think that was his name, was
Gary
really
Barnett at Northwestern.
Was smoking hot. He had Darnell Autry for the old heads. They were in the Rose Bowl. They were incredible. And Colorado hires him right after Bill McCartney, and he got zero traction there. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, in Colorado was rolling at the time.
Rolling.
And so he's going in. He's got talent there, and it just wasn't a fit. It didn't work out. That's why I'm just always leery about a guy in one school in a couple of years has had great success. Is he really the guy? He may be, but I would just be a little leery of it if it's a short term.
I will say this for Tennessee.
Well, Chadwell has done it at 2 or 3 stops as a head coach. Granted, they were
smaller schools.
Levels, kind of like Brian Kelly, but it's not like it's a Scott Frost deal where he's been a head coach for 2 years.
Scott Frost thing is so weird,
Winners
guys.
find ways to win no matter what level they're at.
I agree, Brian.
Here's the thing. Let's switch sports. Bruce Pearl won wherever he was in college basketball. And he was competing against schools in his conferences in JUCO or where he was at Milwaukee, similar schools. I mean, it's a pretty level playing field. I didn't think he had a huge advantage in recruiting, but he won everywhere he was, and that translated to winning at Tennessee and then later at Auburn.
Here's the thing about Tennessee in my eyes. I think in these jobs, when you take the Tennessee job, there's a 75% chance you won't be there in 4 years. It's just the truth right now, Josh Heupel. But you get the money, you get an opportunity. I mean, hey, that's America. You get the money, you get an opportunity. Could tripled his pay, and he has an opportunity of a lifetime. If he doesn't make it, he's an offensive coordinator somewhere, or he can go back and coach where he was. Fine. I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Tennessee, the next time this job comes open, and it will come open. I mean, all these jobs come open. If it comes open and this guy does not make it and can't move the bar, they will be. You can put this in stone, right? I'm going to say it out loud. They will be desperate enough to talk to people that they didn't talk to before. You guys can laugh at that. Matt, you can laugh at that if you want.
I don't know how much more desperate we can get, Tom.
Matt,
I mean,
Matt,
good God.
Matt,
we were like 5 times versus Vanderbilt.
This next time.
You should have been desperate after Butch Jones's 4 years.
Back to the phones we go.
I mean, we were so desperate we nuked our program.
That's why we need.
Fire a coach.
That's why they need to have Heupel work out here. Let's go back to the phones. Hello and welcome into our next call.
Well, hey guys.
Hey, Raj.
Hey, how y'all doing
what
today?
A bonus. Raj in the 12 o'clock hour.
I know I don't recall, but I want to talk to John Adams I told talk to him. Yeah, I told him do something different. I told him
something different.
Told John talked about him crying a little earlier today, so a little different today. So
Something
John,
different.
how you doing today? How you doing? How you doing, buddy? John.
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, Roger.
Well, sure. I just wanted to tell you first. Tony, I just wanted to tell you I met John before I met him at the Eagles. Before I was just walking, getting what I'm gonna do, and I met John. So John, he's a nice guy. And everything, Tony, I'm sure you know, and he. I want to tell you I met John before already. He's a nice guy. I like
I'll tell you this about
John.
I'll tell you this about John.
Yeah.
I've seen him interact with people. First of all, he respects
Yeah.
people. You go out and eat with him. He respects the staff. He's a guy that served in the military. Loves people, loves his country, and I respect the hell out of John Adams. So I'm glad, Roger, you had a great interaction with him. He must have been having a good day that day, Roger, because I saw him one day and he bit my head off.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Is that true, John? Is that true, John?
No, not at all.
Interesting.
No, it's not. Okay.
Sorry, Roger.
It's okay. It's okay. You're fine, John. John, I just want to ask you some questions. Tony, looking for Johnson some questions to him. Okay.
Hey, Rod, you never need my permission to do anything on here. I mean, we had a rap battle on here last week, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Okay. John, I just want to ask you about Tennessee football. John, I just want to ask you, John, did you watch the game? I know play Florida. Did you watch the game? The game, John?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing because I had to write on it.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. So I just want to ask you, after Tennessee played, we didn't win. We competed for a house. I want to ask you, John, would you think Tennessee played Florida? You think Tennessee's getting better, a little better, or getting better, John, after watching Tennessee play Florida?
That's kind of a tough call, Roger. I thought Tennessee played better in the first half, but then in the second half, it made the same costly mistakes that it did against Pittsburgh. When you look at it, Tennessee has only played two teams that are, competent college football programs, and I use that's stretching a little with Pitt mainly, but the other two games were just irrelevant. You can't even consider them. So they played two games, and in both of those games, they sabotaged themselves time after time with stupid mistakes. So when they're playing a team of that caliber, that seems to come out with them. So I just hadn't – I don't know. Maybe they won't do that against Missouri, but a lot of times you see with teams when they start out a certain way, they end up that way too. Let's go.
Yeah, right. True. And also, John, I want to ask you about Missouri game. I know Missouri playing Missouri away. You think Tennessee can beat? You think Tennessee can beat Missouri? Sorry, John. Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's a toss-up kind of game, Roger. I think both teams are in the same boat. Tony was talking about desperation. I think both teams should be a little desperate right now. Missouri as well as Tennessee. If you lose this game, you drop to 2-3, and you got a lot better teams coming up.
Yeah, Missouri's got like Alabama, Georgia, A&M, Florida. No, actually, they don't have Bama, but they have A&M, Florida, Georgia. They got some losses coming. This is a huge game for them if they want to get to 500. And they have Arkansas. That's right, Brian.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a handful schedule here.
And also, John, I know I'm going to play Alabama Saturday. How do you think Ole Miss is going to do? I don't know, Ole Miss has been doing all year. How do you think Ole Miss is going to do against Alabama Saturday, you think, John?
Great question, Roger.
Go straight to
Roger, I really think Ole Miss is going to beat Alabama.
Really? Okay.
And I don't normally pick 15-point underdogs, but I think Lane Kiffin is confident against Nick Saban, and I think his teams will pick up on that. So I think they will go into that game with the idea we can beat Alabama. They won't be beaten by the Alabama mystique. And I think their offense is so good that if Florida could do what it did to Alabama offensively, Ole Miss can do even more.
And I will throw a C note into that pile to see that happen, because that would be hilarious to see that happen. Could you imagine Nick Saban's face, John, when Lane Kiffin's walking off that field and he has to shake Lane Kiffin's hand as a victor? I mean, imagine that. What a great scene that would be.
And, of course, Lane Kiffin would be deadpan.
Oh, yeah.
Totally deadpan.
And then he'd go to the press conference and make fun of him.
Yeah. Well, that's all I had.
Thank you. Roger, great phone call.
Go straight to
You talk to John.
Copper Card Worthy. Happy birthday, Raj. All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Roger.
Bye.
Thank you, Raj. Let's go back to our phones, 865-200-5402. I want to ask John as well about this thing that our fans are doing, which is not fair, by the way, but this using Sam Pittman's success to beat on Josh Heupel when one guy's in year 2 and one guy's in year 1, and how real is what's happening at Arkansas? And how much is it attributable to the fact that they have a good crew of super seniors there and didn't have a lot of leakage from what came before? Let's go back to the phones and get our next call, and I want to unpack that. Hello and welcome into our next call.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Tim up here in Sevierville, Flower Man.
Hey, Tim.
How's it going, man? You guys doing okay today?
Yeah, buddy, great.
Hey, listen, I just wanted to get in. I appreciate you having John Adams on there on Thursdays. I've read many articles from Mr. Adams, and I appreciate his canter on the newspaper area.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any things with John Adams between him and Jimmy Himes at all? Is there any good stories?
Do I have any stories with Jimmy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Jimmy and I used to work together in Baton Rouge for a long time. Not a long time, but I mean way back in the early '80s. And then, of course, we worked together at the New Sentinel from about 1987 to 1998. We both grew up in Louisiana, so we've been good friends a long time, and still are.
Did you grow up, John, are you guys from like the same area in Louisiana?
No, Jimmy was farther north, about Natchitoches, Louisiana, about 35 miles from Shreveport. I grew up in a little town called Clinton, which is 30 miles north of Baton Rouge. But we were together in Baton Rouge at the morning paper there when LSU was having the same kind of success that Tennessee was, and Jerry Stovall was the head football coach.
Jerry Stovall, wow.
At LSU, one of the worst coaches. I put him right there with Jeremy Pruitt as one of the worst coaches in SEC history. And this is a kind of an interesting story that gives you a glimpse into how much football Jerry knew. They were playing Auburn. I think it was in 1980. It was Pat Dye's first season playing at Auburn. There was a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind blowing, and Tennessee kicked off. They decided not to, they didn't take the kickoff. I don't think they called it deferred back then, but anyway, they said. So they kicked off and kicked into a wind. And so Jimmy Himes asked Jerry Stovall the next practice on Monday, said, and they lost the game, so why would you elect to kick off into a wind? And Jerry said, well, you only have two choices. You can either receive or kick off. And Jimmy said, well, no, you can choose to defend a goal. And Jerry said, no, you can't. You either kick off or receive. And so the next day at practice, Jimmy, I know this seems incomprehensible, but the next day at practice, Jimmy took a rule book out and showed Jerry that you could actually... and Jerry said, I know that. Well, there's still another punchline coming. Greg Williams was the defensive coordinator back then. And he was kind of a scapegoat at the end of the season, and they got rid of him. He was actually a pretty good coach. And I was talking to Greg, and I said, Jerry didn't have a clue. I mean, he said, yeah. I said, the captain who went out for the coin toss was one of Greg's players. He was a defensive back. And Jeffrey Dale was his name. He came to the sideline, and Greg goes, "What the hell were you doing? Why in the world would you elect to kick off into the wind?" And he said, "Well," and Greg was just chewing him up one side and down the other, and he says, "Well, Coach Stovall told me to." And so Greg said, "Well, that explains it then." So I put him in. I think Jeremy Pruitt probably knew more football than Jerry did.
And you know that ties back to, John, the night that Brady Hoke, it ties in because it's perfectly, they were playing LSU. Matt's in the stadium and about 35,000 other people. It literally looked like there was a tropical storm above Neyland Stadium. It was raining sideways. The wind was blowing a million. I thought Jim Cantori was going to appear in one of the end
I thought
zones.
they were going to delay the start of the second half.
You couldn't see across the field.
And what did that genius Brady Hoke do? He could have deferred. He could have said, "We're kicking off to you."
Get ready.
Mm-hmm. The officials down there, a buddy of mine's on the chain crew, has been for years. The officials pleading with him, "Hey, Coach, we're going to wait a second for you." No! Kick it to us! Kick it to us!
God,
and you couldn't see the ball. When the ball went up in the air, the kid that was returning the kick, I want to do a special on this one day. The kid that was returning the kick said you couldn't see the ball. Like it bounced and was rolling. Nobody could see the ball. I thought Jim Cantori, you could have seen, if you would have had the Weather Channel down there, you could have seen like a yield sign go flying through the air like you see during those storms. A stop sign.
They didn't delay that game, but they delayed one where there was no cloud in the sky just the very next year.
Brian.
For lightning, allegedly.
Horrible coaches are horrible coaches are horrible. Anything else for us, Robert?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's Tim. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, I just also wanted to get on there, too, about the coaches and everything. I'm liking where I'm seeing. I was kind of pushing for Caldwell to get here. I heard the stupid rant from Herb Street the other day talking about how we should be ashamed that we lost Giano because he's 3-1 or something now. So that we should have gave him a chance.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, no. He did about everything but mention you, but that didn't happen.
Thank you, brother. Good talking to you.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. 865-200-5402. Only at Tennessee could you even get there. Boy, we've had some really interesting stuff thus far. The number is 865-200-5402 if you want to join us today on the programma that gives you more. John Adams, presented by our friends at Seniors Helping Seniors. And we continue with the fun and frivolity after this.
It's football time all over East Tennessee, and you don't want to cook. So for your next tailgate or football, Smoky Mountain Bake, eat local. In-stock options, live and local for over 25 years. Office Furniture Rafferty and Steve Doty. Things are
crazy, so you can buy more houses.
And that weekend trip to Grandma's in Knoxville, Fleet Tire. You the latest trends, 31. Online at Advent League.
And you know what was impressive, Tom?
Back in the summer and 483. Seniors Helping Seniors. Interesting stuff this weekend in the league. Tennessee and Missouri notwithstanding, which is going to be an interesting football game. It's a coin flip. Seniors Helping Seniors, 865-269-4483. Again, 865-269-4483. Online, seniorshelpingseniors.com. And, John, that is Seniors Helping Seniors. When we sat down with Ray back in the summer and learned about his business and what he did and spent a few minutes with him, that truly is an incredible organization, John, and what they do.
And you know what was impressive, Tony? It's always nice to talk to somebody who really likes what he's doing.
Yeah.
And who values what he's doing, who has founded a business that he can have some success in, and at the same time really perform a service to the community and to a lot of people. Because you know how it is. I mean, seniors sometimes in certain situations who don't have a lot of family, they kind of get isolated. and his company breaks through that isolation. So it's a great idea, a great concept, and I'm all in on what he's doing.
33 past the hour. If you want to join us, the number is 865-200-5402. I want to throw this at you guys, and then, well, let's just go back to the phones. I want to get to that Arkansas thing, though, because they have Georgia this weekend, and that could be an interesting game with the way Arkansas played last weekend. I mean, they're probably going to get hammered, but it could be interesting. Who knows? Because you've got Sam Pittman returning to the scene of the crime, and that's an interesting storyline. Hello and welcome into our next call.
Hey, Tony, Turkey Man.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. And, hey, what was that you and John did in the pocket? And John would come in and do news or what was that little skit you did every week? It was called whatever it was.
That, you're talking about our TV show we had a few years ago?
Yeah, in the pocket.
Oh, in the pocket. Yeah, we just. Yeah, I came up with. I guess you would call it fake news. Now I made things up, but because I'm so deadpan, a lot of people believed it when I said they would not allow any traffic on Alcoa Highway on game day because it was too dangerous, and a lot of people believed that.
What would it be with Heupel now? What would you do fake news reporting if you had to show today?
Well, Turkey Man, why are you all over this Heupel guy? You're all over him. Why are you all over this guy?
Well, Tony, I'm not that I feel like I'm on him. Apparently I am. You say I am, but I'm seeing things that he was doing in his livestock, and 4 games into it, doing the same thing. I mean, he was the most penalized team in the country. I mean, top 3 or 4 in the country, and that's showing to be a pattern. We have not seen him as far as recruiting goes. That's still out. But what I was going to give a plug in on for him was I think he might have a heads up. Is something that he did not have, and nobody had till this year, is that transfer portal. And I feel like that somebody, if they can learn that transfer portal, they can be a winner on that, because right now, if you recruit all these 5 stars and 4 stars, you've got to put them on the field. You got to bow to most of them to get what they want. Hey, and they don't get it. Guess what? They're transferred. But guess what? If they transfer, that instant play whenever you transfer again is gone. So I think that gives you a card that you can play it to feel quickly.
If I'm Tennessee, we had this conversation yesterday with X in the 3rd hour, which was great. If I'm Tennessee, I'm holding a good 12 to 14 of my 32 slots this year. I'm already on the phone with parents. Do you like it there? 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 I am scouring other rosters of the top 30 teams in America. I'm not targeting kids off, Conference USA raw. I'm going after guys that are at the top of the deal, that aren't getting on the field, that I know can play and help me. And I'm going to bring in 2 transfer quarterbacks as well. I'm going to keep bringing quarterbacks in here at Tennessee till I get that thing right. John, do you agree with what I'm saying in terms of, because if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job if you're at a spot like this and you have that transfer portal at your disposal?
No, I believe you have to use every avenue to try and improve your program. And it's kind of like schools that are down need immediate help, you sometimes go the junior college route, which is risky. I also think it's a risk to get players from other schools who aren't playing. You don't always get the best guy. I think the transfer portal is more apt to help somebody like Alabama or even Florida, when you can say, okay, you've done well somewhere else. You did really well at TCU or whatever. Why not come here and play for national championship?
That's bearing out. Yeah, that's bearing out at Alabama and Florida. I mean, they've got a kid there from. They have two transfers on defense who are excellent players for them, who were in frontline programs. So you're right.
Yeah.
Here's the issue, though, right? So you're Tennessee, and you're looking at it, you're going, okay, I need immediate help. The problem with junior college is that you got to recruit 3 of them to get one that sticks. That's just the way it's going to work. So it's numbers.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And the problem with taking guys off other rosters, that's why I say I'm coaching specific players. I'm not taking just anybody. I'm initiating it, and I'm going, are you happy there? And I'm going to make a list of those people. And if people want to call me out for tampering, call me out for tampering. But I'm calling parents, families, and friends, and I'm working every avenue because I'm desperate. You're in desperation mode if you're Josh Heupel.
I agree, Tony. And here's one of the things, though, I think in Tennessee's position that I might approach it differently than what you're saying is, if I can look at a player, a star player, at maybe a mid-level school. A good example to me is Missouri got Blaze Aldridge, a linebacker from Rice. Really outstanding player at Rice. And he's come in there. I think he's the best player on Missouri's defense, which, as we mentioned earlier, has been a disappointment. I would look at those kind of guys. The kind of guy that looks like he's an NFL prospect. You think you're an NFL prospect. You got 1 year left. Why not come here and prove yourself in the SEC? Don't even recruit him necessarily as come to Tennessee. Here's your chance. You proved yourself at that level, but now come here and prove yourself at the very highest level. Prove that you can.
Great point. I'm going to amend my take. That's a great point. And you know what made me? And Turkey Man, I'm glad you brought this up because what tripped my mind is Temple has a kid that's a defensive lineman that transferred to Penn State back in the spring, and it looked like a throwaway. He is one of their best defensive linemen. And that's exactly what James Franklin did, because he lost Micah Parsons and there were 2 other guys. They were playing at a high level in the NFL, and he was like, well, we need help. And that's what they told that kid behind the scenes. You come across the state, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get to play in the Big Ten. You're getting away from there. You're going to play in front of a big stadium. I'm going to put you on a big platform. And this kid's performing. So that is worth thinking about. You're right. You are right.
Hey,
Open up the whole world of college football.
Can I mention one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Guys?
Go ahead.
Okay. The other thing that I see Saban's been doing even before transfer portal, he's the second chance guy. And can you imagine if we had been in that position and Sawyer had been in the transfer portal and we've been the second chance guy?
Yes.
How better if we've been the second chance guy when Fields transferred, when
or like Oklahoma, Oklahoma's taking every thug under the sun. And I would do that, by the way. When you're desperate, you're desperate.
Well, it's a new game.
Yes.
And this stuff of beating yourself to death with high school players, get good at the transfer portal. Start recruiting the transfer portal.
Thank you, Turk. I agree with that. It's there. And until they close that loophole, and you got this free agency, I would use it. Go ahead, Brian. You were wanting to add.
Oh no, I wasn't.
Well, here's the deal. No, you're fine. Here's the deal. I'm gonna go back to the phones.
Go straight to
John just kind of opened my eyes to that. Matt, he brings up a good point. John does, because you can say what you want about Tennessee, but we still are in the Southeastern Conference here. We're still playing a world-class schedule, and that's if you go to a kid at Memphis, even that's attractive to them. The right prospect. What do you think, Dixon?
No, you can find players anywhere. And
right.
it doesn't matter if they're Group of 5, Power 5. There's good players out there. You mentioned this guy at Temple. Lane Kiffin went up there and got their tight end last year, and he was an All-SEC tight end at Ole Miss last year. I mean, you can find guys. You just have to evaluate them. I don't know what all Tennessee's kind of that off-the-field support staff, all those guys, who all is in that. But I would hope those people are scouring, the portal and looking at guys all over the country. There's plenty of Group of 5 players who can be really nice, kind of fringe starters or productive players at Power 5. I mean, I think Tulsa's defense was really good last year. They had 5 or 6 guys who transferred up to Power 5 schools this year just off their defense alone. So wherever you can get players, you can get them. And that's you just have to evaluate them and know that they're the right ones.
And John, you guys can laugh at this. I would go get me 2 transfer quarterbacks this spring. You guys, or this, whenever this happens. I'm still doing it. I'm going to keep doing it until I get it right.
Yeah, go get them next week if you can. You're right. You've got to have, in today's game, quarterback means more than it ever has. I think what I would do in terms of these transfers, I would take conferences like the Mountain West, the American Conference, Conference USA, conferences of that ilk, and look at their all-conference team.
Really interesting.
Say you've got a guy's a junior all-conference, playing at a mid, 5-5, 7-5, whatever type team, and say, here's your chance, man. You're right there. You've proved yourself in that league. But you can't help yourself anymore in that league. They've done all they can for you. Here's a chance for you to come to the SEC and do the same thing, and it's going to make you a lot of money. That would be my sales pitch.
Hey, Matt, who was the kid in hoops, the Ivy League kid that transferred in here and went to Alabama? And Tennessee was involved with him for a second. Brian, you remember that?
I think it was Quinterly.
That's what happened there.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the guy. That's the guy from Villanova.
Now, Quinterly's from Villanova.
It was that big point guard. The center.
Big point center.
Yeah.
It was the big center.
But where was Quinterly from?
He was from Villanova. But the point is, the big center was an all-league player in the Ivy. And, and Tennessee got involved with him for a second because we were talking about him one night. And then he ended up there because he had like a tie to the school or whatever, or tie to one of the coaches. The point is, that is a thing in college sports. Those guys are always looking to, I'm going to test myself against the best. And John just opened my, I want to be somebody that's not afraid to see other points. And I just did that right on the fly. He changed my mind right on the fly. Let's go to the phones, because that's a great point. Let's get our next call in. Hello and welcome.
How you doing, Tony? And how are you, John?
Hey, Billy.
Doing great, Bill.
John, I can remember when you were a guest on a certain sports talk show host, and I'll tell you the talk show that you appeared on. Number one, he's in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. Number two, he's the Vice President of Communications for the Tennessee Titans. And he's also the play-by-play voice of the Tennessee Titans.
Give John an imitation of the man in question here as I hear Matt Dixon groan. Obviously, Matt Dixon's groaning in pleasure. But go ahead, Titans Bill. Doesn't sound like Matt Dixon's down with your phone call thus far. But go ahead. Give John Adams a taste of that.
And the Titans get it done again.
And how does he do the sack or the touchdown? Give me one of those calls.
Touchdown, Titans! Derrick Henry, the king.
Brian, do you have a thought on this phone call?
It sounds like Mike Keith before he hit puberty.
Titans Bill, when I hear you scream in my ear like that, it makes me
sounds like
Titans.
And how does he do? But go ahead. I hear Matt Dixon groan. Obviously, Matt Dixon's groaning in pleasure. But go ahead, Titans Bill. Doesn't sound like Matt Dixon's down with your phone call thus far. But go ahead. Give John Adams a taste of that.
Go straight on.
And the Titans get it done again.
Keep right.
And how does he do the sack or the touchdown? Give me one of those calls.
Turn right.
Touchdown, Titans! Derrick Henry, the king.
Brian, do you have a thought on this phone call?
It sounds like Mike Keith before he hit puberty.
Titans Bill, when I hear you scream in my ear like that, it makes me want to count you down. You know what the countdown is?
Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're out of here.
Thank you. You got that right. Let's get our next call in. Hello and welcome.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah, hey, welcome in.
So have you looked at the transfer portal?
Meaning?
It ain't full of 4 and 5 stars, but I think you have the right idea. Mm-hmm. You got to get out there and you got to find somebody that can get out there and recruit the guys that aren't on. It ain't full.
Hit puberty.
Brian, do you have a thought on this phone call?
It sounds like Mike Keith before he hit puberty.
Titans Bill, when I hear you scream in my ear like that, it makes me want to count you down. You know what the countdown is?
Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're out of here.
Thank you. You got that right. Let's get our next call in. Hello and welcome.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah, hey, welcome in.
So have you looked at the transfer portal?
Meaning?
It ain't full of 4 and 5 stars, but I think you have the right idea.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get out there and you got to find somebody that can get out there and recruit the guys that aren't on there so they have you in mind when they enter that portal. That portal's full of 3 stars and 2 stars and walk-ons. So anybody looking to right the ship through the transfer portal, they're not going to find it there.
I don't know. Alabama got a really good transfer from Ohio State.
Yeah. I'm talking about a program like Tennessee that needs volume. You're not going to find that volume.
I mean, well, what about like Aubrey Solomon that was at Michigan? Wasn't he a 4 or 5 star?
He was.
Lineman?
He was. Henry T was a 5-star. He was in the portal last year. The running back that went to North Carolina was a 4-star off our roster. Oklahoma got 4 and a 5-star player. But obviously Tennessee had extenuating circumstances last year that kicked all those kids into the portal. But John brings a great point up.
Out for Oklahoma.
John brings a great point up where you can look. If I have my choice between taking an 18-year-old kid or I could get a kid that's 2 years in the Mountain West who's proven he can play, give me the kid 2 years in the Mountain West because I know I'm going to get an immediate help as a football player.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to reiterate, you kind of had an idea that John Calipari and some of those basketball coaches utilized last year.
Yes.
Really working it from their end.
Listen, and that's my whole thing. If I'm Josh Heupel, I have 3 young people on my staff that are absolutely, that's their job. And if you're not doing that at your Tennessee and you're in the spot Tennessee's in, Tony, are you saying Tampa? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because if you're a 4 or 5-star kid and you're buried on a roster somewhere, you want a chance to play. And John's got a great point too. That's what I love about John. I'm not judging whether it's right or wrong, but you're in a profession full of piranhas, and you're either going to eat or you're going to be eaten. I mean, you've made the decision to get into that thing. So if you've made the decision to get into this thing, and you're Josh Heupel, nice guys, ask Busby, nice guy in the world. You're always going to finish last. Always when you're a nice guy. Always in that deal. Because I'm telling you, if Nick Saban was in this guy's spot, it would look like a telethon inside Alabama's office. There'd be so many phones. They'd have a phone bank set up in there. Am I lying, John? A phone bank.
Well, no, the Nick Sabans of the world are always going to find the extra edge. They're going to find whatever. They're going to do whatever it takes. That's his history.
Yep. And so, because when he said that, I thought, that's that kid that went to Temple from Penn State. I was like, oh, this guy's a revelation. Well, James Franklin knew that. I mean, that's how that kid ended up there. They're like, oh,
Sometimes, Tony, when you have a backup at say Ohio State or Alabama or somewhere, he's a 4 or 5 star, but he's been a backup there for 2 years. You got to wonder, well, was this guy really overrated? Whereas if you have a player in the Mountain West who's all conference for a couple of years, you know he can play. You can't be sure about these guys at the best programs. They may be really good given a chance, but to me, you don't have the body of work to judge them. And they may be a backup there because they weren't really that good as a recruiting service has said.
Really interesting conversation. I mean, I don't know how that's happened on here today, but it has, and we'll take it. We'll come back on the other side, heading into hour number 3. More after this.
TB here, and Seniors Helping Seniors is something I'm excited to tell you about. Friend, we're all about it because carpetbaggedly these are your neighbors. Will be for many, many years.
Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate
For you. Look, there are many options to choose from. Even if you're already on Medicare, Adam might just have $6.55. That's 423.
Flooring, windows, doors, even siding, gutters. Basically, a turnkey operation.
Interior remodels?
Yes.
Portraits. Say it with me, Scottish Chuck.
SRS Renovations.
So we're about to head into hour number Trey, and I'm going to ask the great John Adams to hang in with me because I'm going to need his help in our third hour. Tennessee quarterback situation. Josh Heupel. Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel reports the following. Josh Heupel didn't have a starting quarterback decision made Thursday. He indicated he won't be the one to decide that as the health of UT's quarterback room is uncertain. So Tennessee is they're not giving in to the narrative that Hendon Hooker's the guy, but we believe he's going to start Saturday. In the meantime, we love you. God bless to the radio listener. Peace.
WJBE 1040 AM 99.7 FM. Translator W259AB. Powell, Knoxville.
So as the radio listener leaves us for another action-packed day, John Adams, man, terrific job by you. We are really we were in the pocket today. We had some really good discussion, I thought.
We actually referred to it in the pocket.
And referred to in the pocket. Yes. Which is a
Can we?
Yeah.
Are those shows archived? Can we retrieve any of those?
I don't know.
I wonder how many cold takes you had on those, Tone.
No, you know what? We shot them live to tape. That was.
I know, but I mean, like your predictions or some of that stuff. I'd love to see.
Oh, cold takes.
Yeah.
Matt likes to pick at me, John. Have you noticed that?
I do, but I think you bring that out in people, don't you?
Well, damn it. That's not nice, Kyle. Kyle Blackburn is now in here. That's not a nice thing to say, Kyle, is it, that I bring that out in people?
No, I said that.
I know, and it's not a very nice thing to say. And I'm asking, I'm pleading with Kyle
He's looking
to say,
for defense.
Yes.
Don't take it personal, Tony. It's just business.
Oh, I don't. One thing about me, it's hard for me to get offended.
Me too.
Unless it's true, and then I get offended.
X had an interesting note about the Missouri backfield.
Yeah, so let me share that because I shared it with you guys. Let me share it with share it with the radio listener. So X earlier heard our conversation. Who helps us with recruiting? And yesterday he was on with us for 70 minutes. He said 3 of Missouri's running backs are Tennessee kids. The Beatty kid who we talked about before, who's a really nice player and he went to, I want to say, I think he's from Briarcrest in Memphis. Elijah Young is from South Doyle, right stone's throw from Neyland Stadium. Played at South Doyle. And then B.J. Harris from Chattanooga McCauley. And X makes the point that those are 3 players from 3 different decent-sized cities in the state of Tennessee, all playing at Missouri, which is really kind of interesting. If you stop and think about that.
They had this game circled?
Oh, those kids have the game circled. The problem is Beatty's the only one that gets on the field, Bri. He's the only kid that gets... He plays 90% of their snaps. In fact, I think it's 93%. He's always on the field.
He won't be there at the end of the year then. You can't work one running back that much, I don't think.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I think Elijah Young through 4 games, John, has carried the ball only 20 times. I mean, the Beatty guy, and he's got I think he's got 61 carries so far on the year and 20 receptions, which means he's probably been targeted a bunch too, outside of the other, because he's 20 catches. I bet they've thrown the ball to that guy 30 times.
Well, he was kind of viewed as a third down back. He was that when Larry Roundtree was there.
Yeah.
And I think that there was a real question about his durability. Could he actually be a lead back? And he's definitely proved he can, and he's held up so well so far.
Dixon, how concerned are you about this game? Or I believe Hendon Hooker plays. What does that do for the game for you in terms of the win column, the middle of the road column, or the loss column for you with this one?
Well, I think he's your best quarterback, so it certainly increases your chances of winning. Him being more of a running threat is going to be interesting, because when I look, Missouri hadn't stopped anybody all year running, and they really haven't even gone up against a mobile quarterback. The FCS team they had, its quarterback ran a lot, but I don't know how much you take away from that. So they've been getting gashed on the ground just by running backs. Like they haven't even had a running threat at quarterback go up against their poor defense. So it's a game where if Tennessee can stay ahead of the sticks, get 5 or 6 yards every first down and really have a lead, you can just wear Missouri down and just go up and down the field on them.
I wonder, though, the opposite of that with Missouri. That dink and dunk passing game of theirs, where they've been able to move the ball all year doing that, it's not that entertaining, but it seems to work for them. Keeping Tennessee's defense on the field and having to defend a lot of passes, I mean, I could just see something breaking down for Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely. And Missouri does a lot of that pre-snap motion, a lot of, I guess it's eye candy is what people call it now. So you have to be disciplined. This will be a good test to see how well coached their defense is. Guys like Jeremy Banks and Alontae Taylor can kind of get out of position sometimes, and this is the kind of game where that would really hurt you, because that's really all Missouri's offense is designed to do, is to just kind of fool you one way and go the other. They're not going to throw deep balls. Their quarterback throws deep balls about as bad as Joe Milton does. So you'll have to stay disciplined, and of course they'll be on the field for 35 to 40 minutes of the game, which is just kind of what happens with high those teams. So that's a concern. It could be just turn into a shootout.
Well, I don't know if that's a shootout. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I just wonder if when I watch Connor Bazelak, it's almost as though he's the kind of guy you keep waiting for him maybe to get a little better and stretch his game some, but it doesn't go well when he does that. I mean, he's got a pretty strong arm, seems to have a decent pocket presence, and he's accurate, but then when he has to take that next step, he just doesn't get it done. So I think I would rather play against him than I would Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh, for example.
Well, what's weird about that Bazelak kid is it doesn't look like he's gotten a lick better since he was in Neyland Stadium last year. he was like a borderline revelation. Boom! Wow, look at this guy. But a year later, he's just sort of.
Yeah, he's very poorly coached.
Well, interesting. Kyle, go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead, Kai.
I thought it was interesting from earlier in the week.
Get ready.
You get your guy on from Missouri. He's from Power Mizzou.
Yes, sir.
He threw out
Turn left.
the history that Heupel has on getting pass happy.
Yep.
Even when they don't need to, which I found interesting because the one time where we've seen
It was a nice ride.
that could be an issue was the very first game of the season, and Heupel actually kind of packed it in and said, we can run all over this team. Why am I throwing the ball? Let's just get out of here with a comfortable win. And I'm wondering if we don't run into a scenario like that again where Tennessee's running the football. Is he going to, if it's successful, which will be pending somewhat on the quarterback, I think, also the offensive line health.
Okay.
Does he
Here we go.
continue that? Because he seems to be pretty sound in his decision-making there. Does he stay with the run, or does he try to get pass happy? And I think if he doesn't have the quarterback that he wants in there to throw the football, which he may not even have on the roster at this point, but if the run's effective, and I think maybe he just sticks with it, and maybe that helps. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting point that guy had said to look out for, because I don't foresee them getting off the game plan just to throw the ball, because I don't think he has the offense that he wants to even think about that. But if we can run the football, I think that's just what's going to happen.
You know, I still wonder about Tennessee's offensive line, though. I mean, to me, you look at the Missouri game and you think, well, Tennessee could throw the ball 17 times and score 38 points maybe on these guys just by running the ball. But I really wonder about Tennessee's offensive line. I'm not seeing a whole lot there. Cooper Mays, it's like he's their only option at center. They don't seem comfortable playing somebody else at center. So he limps around out there, and Cade Mays is not playing like an all SEC offensive line.
No.
He'd be better at guard, I think. And Darnell Wright, let's face it, he was a 5-star. He and Wanya Morris both were, and neither one of them's panned out.
But they're getting serviceable play out of Wright. I mean, he's not like world beater, but they've at least managed to get serviceable play out of him. That's why this weekend's really interesting, because something's going to give. Missouri's either going to defend Tennessee well, or Tennessee's going to smash them in the face on the ground. The problem is, without Cooper Mays, Tennessee wasn't able to run the ball against a 1AA team. So if Tennessee's able to run the ball on them and beat them at the point of attack, especially between the tackles, you're going to know for sure that Missouri's total slaw on defense, to use a term from Florida, and I got to get to that in a moment because he's got an issue here I need you guys to help him with. But if what's that going to say about Missouri's defense if, let's say, Cooper Mays can't play Saturday, or let's say he's limited, and we see the whole thing where Carvin goes back in there, and what if Tennessee's running the ball on them? I mean, what will that say to the Missouri fans about the rest of their season? I mean, that's going to tell you they're in a lot of trouble if that's the case.
Well, look at it the other way, though. You brought up that Tennessee Tech game with Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, if Tennessee could not dominate the line of scrimmage with its offensive line against Tennessee Tech,
right?
Is its offensive line any better than Missouri's defensive line?
No, that's what
Aren't we talking about the same thing?
And that's what we're going to say. I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they gave up 300 rushing yards to Southeast Missouri State, so it's not like they did very well against their 1AA team either.
I know. That's what I mean. They both seem to have this egregious weakness, and we just don't know. It's really kind of an intriguing matchup.
It is, for that reason, yes.
Tennessee actually has run the ball 55 more times than they've thrown it this year.
That's a great sneaky number, bro.
Yeah, I never thought Heupel was very pass happy at UCF. I think a lot of those Missouri games, they were trying to come from behind because their defenses were terrible. When I watched them those UCF games,
Go straight
I
on.
actually thought they were a little conservative running the ball a little too much at times.
Yeah, he had Drew Lock at Missouri, so of course
I know, yeah. You have an
Drew
NFL
Lock.
player and a couple decent receivers, too. One of whom was an in-state Tennessee kid, if memory serves me correctly. Who was
Let's just say that Hooker doesn't start, and he's hurt, and Joe Milton comes out there. Do you think he'll throw 2 long bombs on the first series?
Oh, good God Almighty!
I mean, that's kind of what he does with Milton.
Well, let's
They'll
say,
end up in the pile of rocks there in the end zone.
Exactly, Brian. We're going to find out if those balls, how much air is in them, because if it hits a rock at the right angle, it could explode on national television.
What?
Could you imagine that, John? The visual of the air going out of the ball as it hits one of those sharp stones in the end zone?
Well, you know how they started after 9/11, and they wouldn't allow these planes. You used to get all these planes flying overhead with, they don't allow that. But imagine if one was flying overhead, advertising a car dealership or a strip club, and Joe Milton just hit one.
All right, boys. Well, we're recapping week 4. Vols traveled to Gainesville, and I fell asleep right before halftime. What happened? Vols came out on top, right? We're back? Is that what happened?
Oh, that's a funny joke.
That's a joke, Kyle. Tennessee falls to Florida 38-14. Gets shut out in the second half. Looked good for about a half a quarter, I guess. And it all fell apart. What do you guys think? What went wrong for the Vols down in Gainesville?
We played Florida. That's what went wrong.
Chris, I do want to apologize. I didn't believe you. That was true.
I think I was the one who ended up getting his hopes up the most.
At the end there, you did, yeah.
By the end of it, at halftime, I was thinking, our adjustments have been pretty good all year. Surely we'll continue to hit the deep ball. Surely something will happen.
Didn't you say that right before halftime as well? Oh, we make the best halftime adjustments.
Might have, I don't remember.
Somebody
did. Play calling, our first offensive drive was, the play calling was fine out of the half.
Play calling was great all game long.
Was it though? I
I don't know. Let's
say
say it's not. Defend your position that it was not good play calling, Matt.
We didn't execute the plays. I mean,
no, Matt.
No, we just didn't catch it. Like they were open.
I do think.
Are you saying it's a bad play call because Heupel should have known that our receivers suck and would drop it?
Okay, no. One thing I did notice though was that at the beginning of the game, like we were putting a tight end and I don't know if we have actual fullbacks, but we were lining up with an H-back a lot of those running downs, and I think that really helped us to start the game. But you didn't really see that too much in the second half. So if I had one gripe about play calling, it would probably be that. But other than that, I mean, I guess it was okay.
Do you have the stats, Matt? I'm curious what our run pass split was in the second half.
I've got them saved here.
I feel like we abandoned the run after Cooper went out. That I could just be imagining that.
I mean, it feels like it. We just this issue with us and going 3 and out in like 30 seconds. It's got to stop. Like our defense, we don't have the depth to stay in SEC football games if we keep doing that 4 and 5 times a game.
I agree with you, but it's like that's just his offense. Like he's not going to change his offensive scheme to match our lack of depth. Like he's just going to get through it.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
That's one thing I got for thinking was like, I got the stats up here, but what was that one I wrote down? Oh yeah, so 2 straight bad snaps late in the second quarter ended our drives on third down. So that killed us. So here it is. With 5 minutes left in the second quarter, we had the ball on offense. Our time of possession on offense with 5 minutes in the second quarter was 8 minutes and 18 seconds. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I mean, we had scored 2 touchdowns, so I don't know that that's necessarily a bad.
And we did leave
I'll take the
points
trade,
on,
Matt.
Yeah, we left points on the field there at the end of the second half,
and then
or first
exit
half.
right.
But I think the offense can't rely on tempo alone. Like, if we're getting guys open, like we're saying we are, if we're making the right play calls, it's just not working. That's fine, but the defense is suffering because it's not working. So I would like to see them slow down just a tad.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the Peyton and Eli thing Monday when Saban was on and essentially told the world that hurry up offense is the hardest thing to defend?
Yeah.
I think that was,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, when you see the defense line up, they are kind of still looking, and it's pretty certain they don't even have a play call. They're just winging it when we do play most of the times. But I mean, it would be great if we had depth at the defensive line, but we don't. And those guys, the pass rush just completely dies in the second half. Heck, even to start there at the end of the second quarter, we're not going to survive necessarily like that.
Well, even with Joe Milton's last series where he had 5 overthrows and 6 passes, like all of those were open. Like he easily could have completed all of those.
Yeah.
So they're getting open.
I think down the line, the goal is going to be getting 3 to 4 stops a game. I think that's what they're trying to condition the whole program to be. Is they anticipate that they're going to be scoring 40 plus points a game.
I did look up, and this was Heupel's most lopsided loss of his head coaching career. I don't know if I was surprised by that, but 14 points is the fewest points he's ever scored as a head coach.
Give me a V.
Hell. So another thing, I'm going to admit I was completely wrong about the Joe Milton Hendon Hooker situation. Anybody else want to take back their comments from last week?
I don't remember, Matt. What were those comments?
Joe Milton's the only person that can lead us to a victory, I think.
Well, let's talk about that. What did we see from Joe Miltano?
And the worst shovel pass I've ever seen.
It was 8 yards to the side of him.
I don't even know a comparison in sports to what he does. Like, it's like me teeing off at a golf course. Like, yeah, I hit it 300 yards, but 150 of them are, to the left or the right. Oh my God, the guy is so bad. Like, there's no chance at redemption for him, is there? Like,
unless you put him in there as kind of a red zone.
No, we need to put him in there at linebacker. The guy is built like a linebacker. That's the same thing we did to C.J. Leak back in 2002.
But he doesn't like to hit. I don't think.
Yes, apparently his phobia is being touched. He doesn't like it. It gives him hives and he cries.
What? We went out and got Howie Mandel from Michigan to be our quarterback.
Kind of.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. All right. No turnovers by the Vols, though. That was nice to see.
Yeah.
Especially with how quick the offense is going.
What did you think of Hooker? Like, he's clearly the guy going forward, right?
think he did a better job than I thought he would. But
Yeah.
he's an average SEC quarterback, I guess. That's his ceiling.
Well, obviously, but he's the best option. I think it's obviously. I think he's our one, and maybe Bailey might need to be our two, even though everybody hates him on
Might
the coaching
need
staff.
be.
Well, that will be interesting once we get to Missouri talk.
The thing I would like to see from Hooker, it's like he bails out of the pocket. It seems so early, and then he doesn't keep his eyes downfield. So as soon as he feels any pressure, the play is over.
That's one thing I wrote down was that a lot of the passing plays break down before the receivers can really even get into their routes. And I don't think that's necessarily to blame on the offensive line. It's just pressure coming. So I did notice that on my rewatch of it. What do you guys think? Penalties still too many, or is that an okay number? For
way too
going too quick.
Yeah.
That's all fans.
I mean, what was the drive that pretty much ended the game? A 4th and 2 turned it into a punt, like we were in plus territory. 4th and 2 was it a false start, and then something else, and that pretty much ended any real chance of us winning the game.
Well, that was just a false start, and I'm going to criticize Heupel on that one. We're 4th and 7. What were we down 10 maybe at that point?
Something like that, yeah.
And then he punted it. I feel like you just have to go for it there, regardless of what just happened.
Well, what was the one we also said that it was like 4th and 27? He said, well, you kind of have to go for this if you have any intention of winning.
That was late. Very late.
Was late. Okay. Memories are already starting to cloud.
I have a question. What Tennessee running back, do you think of when you think of fumbles? There's one name. Who is it?
Arian Foster.
Arian Foster. What Tennessee defender do you think of when you think of boneheaded penalties?
What's his name?
Partner. Jeremy Banks.
Jeremy Banks. Thank you.
Oh, well.
Another one. Like,
yeah.
He got one on 3rd down that gave him a 1st down. Like, gosh, man.
They don't have anyone.
I mean, he looks a lot quicker this year. I think he does a good job. But gosh, he just can't cut out the boneheaded mistakes.
Boneheaded is a real nice word.
So completely wrong about Joe Milton. So you guys say Heupel should not adjust his philosophy to accommodate our roster, our completed defensive depth.
Okay, I'm gonna hedge a little bit. Like, I'm okay if they want to slow down from time to time, but like, I don't blame them for trying to go fast. I mean, like, if you go 3 and out, I mean, there's not much you can do about that. You slowing down 10 seconds per play doesn't really give your defense crazy amount of rest, more so. But I mean, I think what was the game? We did slow down some, maybe the Pittsburgh game. So I mean,
it felt like we went really slow in Florida.
I guess
yeah.
I don't know, when we wanted to hurry up, I guess we were, but yeah, well, I didn't pay too much attention to this.
Hey, has Jalen Hyatt caught a pass past the line of scrimmage?
If he has, I can't remember.
Don't know.
I think he might have had one against Bowling Green.
Yeah, the one down the sideline or something.
That little screen pass they ran to him, that was a nice little play.
I like the play. Also, shout out to Bowling Green for boosting her RPI.
Go!
So Jalen Hyatt's long on the year is 30, so I would guess he caught that downfield. Don't know when, but yeah. All right, what else we got about Florida? I guess defense performance. You satisfied or? No? What? Is that a bad question? What?
No, we're just terrible. Not satisfied with anything.
I mean, it's.
Uh,
I think what the Florida game has taught me is that we hate to say this because it's like we're not year 4, but it's like coach 4 of us saying this is like this isn't year 1. It might not even be at year 0. It's like year -2. You know, like I mean, it is like I don't. I mean, we don't even have a full roster to begin with, and then like we have injuries. Like it's just insane. I don't even know what to think. Like, yeah, the defense did okay, but for what they are, what they are is awful.
I think my biggest takeaway from the Florida game is that we just don't have any good players.
Yep.
And on one hand, I'm like, okay, well, the play calling was pretty good at times, so maybe that's encouraging, but it's also extremely discouraging because I don't have any faith that we're going to get good players, so I don't really know where that leads us.
You don't think Papa Hype is going to just nail that transfer portal this offseason? You don't think we're just going to be lining our pockets with JUCOs?
Well, yeah, but they probably will suck. I mean,
there you go.
That was.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just say at least our best players are transfers, you know, and they're not like Pruitt players.
Are we really going to do? Whoa!
My 2 defensive takeaways was Byron Young didn't even notice him. Disappointing to see that, and too much zone coverage. Like there were way too many times in that game where Emory Jones like just drop it in between like 4 and 5 defenders. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, get out of the zone every now and then.
Would you rather see us get burned?
But he did say Hooker was not in concussion protocol, so whatever that means.
I didn't. What play did Hooker get hurt on? I forgot.
Like a sack, wasn't it?
I
don't know if he got sacked, but his face got slammed into the turf.
Oh, okay, yes, I remember that now. Yeah, that was.
What do we make of this Cooper Mays Instagram post? Oh, that's useless. The picture of him, and it says, "They won't respect you till you try."
Most of the people I heard after the game was like, why did he leave him in there? It's a war crime. Poor boy can barely walk. It's like the guy plays football. Like, let him play football. Let him do what he wants, you know?
And then exit right.
You have to stop these kids from being their own worst enemy.
Exit right.
All right.
Elton first.
Missouri on offense. They're actually up at the top. They're 4th in the league, averaging 483 yards, 324 through the air. So yeah, they can move the ball. So it's really going to come down to our offensive performance. And run the ball at least 40 times. That's all you got to do, in my opinion. What do you guys think? What do we got to do to score points and beat Missouri?
Caleb.
I have no idea.
I don't know if there's a formula. I mean, yeah, you got to obviously run the ball, but we are not putting up on the line.
I think the play calling is going to get us like open. It's just like, does our players make catches and do they like do the plays that we've called?
And can they stop being just dumb idiots committing like 30 yards of penalties on one play? Like, we can't have drives that are just killed by penalties.
Yeah.
Well, we can. Definitely can.
and do. I mean, is that Go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was just saying. I was just thinking that, like, and just one of the things that just pissed me off about the Florida game was just our execution of snapping the ball. Like, if we, like 2 bad snaps ruined 2 drives. You know, it's like, oh my God, if those snaps were just good. Yeah. Like, if we just snap the ball, we might be good.
It's weird feeling like we truly do suck but I just don't feel like blaming Josh Heupel right now. It's a very uneasy feeling. It was so easy with Pruitt. It was so easy with Butch, but this is year one, and we're just going to have to slog through this.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think he's done his job though. It's just with his
yes,
with the deck that he's been dealt. Like he's done the best he can't go out there and make Jimmy Callaway catch the fourth down. Like that ball was in his hands.
God.
I don't
You know,
fault
he
him.
can't,
I mean, he was looking forward. Like, I mean, his head was still kind of like he could probably seen the ball out of his periphery there, but he was ready to get that ball and run. So.
You said you don't fault him?
No.
Jimmy or Josh Heupel?
I don't know. It's just me. I'm tired of Florida.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right though, Missouri. We're just going to have to challenge the things that they do. They are not good at. I mean, but then again, like I said, offensive line not good, especially without Cooper Mays. Probably not going to play. Everyone is kind of still banged up. Like I don't expect Tyon or Jabari are 100%.
Okay, I don't think they'll play. Oh God,
2-10.
Here we come.
But like, can we complete open passes?
I mean, that is a good thing. Is if you can run the ball early, with effect, that should give you time to practice more of your plays and hopefully work out those kinks. What do you guys think? I hope. I mean, what are we doing? Talking about nothing.
I know.
Well, I mean, if Hooker doesn't play, we ain't winning.
Oh,
we are not winning.
Say that to Andy's face, bro.
We're not winning any. We're not beating anybody with Joe Milton playing.
Can't believe a week ago we said.
Okay, so we beat Bowling Green with Joe Milton playing. Who else on our schedule could we beat with Joe Milton?
Joe Milton in the first half of that game was the most efficient Tennessee quarterback I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, what did he start? Like 11 of 12?
Just